First order on the agenda, minutes from the last meeting. Everybody had time to review?
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
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 You want a roll call again, Barry?
Yeah, we should. We won't redo this one, but we should do roll call.
And who was the motion maker?
Barry. Here, I'm asking everyone to talk loud and I speak.
You can't hear yourself.
Okay, first item up is Brian Jankala. If the board recalls, this was a continued item. The original request is from December, but there was one, they were going back to talk with the applicants about revisions that the board had discussed. And then COVID came and you know, they're an elderly couple and so they didn't get a chance to do it as soon as they would like to. It ended up they were able to do it sooner than they thought. So they could have been on earlier, but we'd already done the continuation to this date just to make sure we had the time we needed. And so we do have the revised plans. Let's see here, just 1 second. So if the board recalls, the original request had the new deck and the new spa in line with the lakeside portion of the house, and the board at the first hearing said it ended up being a further encroachment because of how the bluff line kind of runs along this area. And so the board said make it, instead of in line with the house, make it in line with that existing deck, which would be about 8 or 10 feet back from that front corner. So that's what they've done. This is that revised plan. It'll be in line with the existing deck where the hot tub area will be that lakeside portion, and there'll be a new bit of deck that comes, sticks to the north to kind of fill in the gap right behind the hot tub, or to the side of the hot tub. So the hot tub has deck on two sides. And so those are the revisions that we have.
I guess I don't really have too much to add.
Names to Terry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rachel Jankala.
And then Brian Jankala.
Thank you.
I guess we don't have too much to add besides we just took, I can't remember which one of you, maybe Drew, it was you, drew up a little sketch for me of how to do it. So we just took those suggestions and did that.
They were happy with it.
They were happy with it.
Okay, we'll start up here with Dave.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that you changed it from that corner to get it away from the bluff, which everyone asked, so I'm happy with that. I think it's a good idea.
Likewise, I'm fine, did a good job, thank you.
Yeah, good for me.
I'm the same.
Charlotte?
Yeah, the applicant did what we asked them to do, so I'm fine with it.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance request of section 155.026, 155.049, and 155.057 E1 to Chapter 155, Title 15, Land Usage and Zoning of Wright County Code of Ordinance to build a 10 by...
How about we just put as per, actually, yeah, are you reading? I put a
Yeah.
proposed motion.
Yeah.
On the back.
Oh, I'm sorry about
I don't do it often, so you probably weren't ready for it.
Oh, thank you. Approve the revised request for a 7 feet 9 inches by 8 feet spa area and a 6 foot 6 inches by 8 foot deck addition according to the plans submitted marked Exhibit A. Thank you, Barry. Lifesaver.
I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Dan, Dick? Oh,
Yeah,
Dan, Dick, aye?
Charlotte already did aye.
Paul, aye.
John, aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
Good, you're in and out.
What's that?
You're done?
We're done, we're good?
Yep, so just, get the two copies of the plans submitted to the office. There is a application, we have it with everything that's going on, a paper application form that you can fill out in advance. When you drop it off, it'll have all your information. And then best thing to do is call our main line, schedule an appointment to drop them off. We are requesting people make appointments so that we're ready for you when you get there. Goes quicker.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
All right.
sounds
I like
good, we'll do that.
change a lot better. out like that too.
I think they will, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
Thank you. Well, there's a good.
Good morning.
Hi.
Give your names to Terry, please.
Joe Cheney, All Auto.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this matter was continued for site inspection. In the meantime of the inspection, the applicant also included, revised the request to include a shed, a storage building that's 20 by 50 and 10 by 40, or sorry, 20 by 50, that's 10 feet tall sidewall, 40 by 44, that's 16-foot sidewall, at the same setback as the house, 100 feet. We did receive both revised survey with the shed location, which is in that southeast corner, as well as plans for the shed itself. I did keep the house plans in here, so there's the elevation drawings of that building and the floor plan and cross-section. So we did receive all the required plans. I talked with the property owner yesterday. In this particular case, we got an original approval from the township based on the house plans. When we resent the revised notice, the township disapproved, indicating there were no blueprints and they don't know where the shed is going to be constructed, because when the applicants met with the township in June, they didn't have the plans and information at that meeting. And so the shed was never discussed. And so that, according to what the township has said now, they disapprove of the shed. That's kind of, I guess that's how I'm interpreting it, based on, we have an approval for the house, but we have a disapproval when the shed was added. So I would say that appears to be the biggest reason, and they only specifically referenced the shed in this particular case. So, don't know what the board wants to do with that bit of information. There's a number of different things we could do. I talked with Joe a little bit about it, and so I guess before I get into saying, well, these are the options, well, I want to know what the board thinks before I just kind of start spouting off. And then we did get additional comments from neighbors with that second notice. Carol Meyer indicated she does not feel it's something that is appropriate. So for both the dwelling and the shed, feeling that 200 feet is what should be abided by. The same sentiment from Katie and Kevin Schmidt. That response was in your packets, and I emailed that to Charlotte as well. And Janice Marshall sent in a comment too, that she's not in favor of granting the septic system setback specifically, and has concerns with the road approach on 34, being it's not a lot of room there, and there's another driveway right next to it. So I do have property owners on the WebEx meeting, and so once we're done with the applicants and give them the chance to speak, we'll turn it over and see if the public has any comment. I do have Janice Marshall and Kevin and Katie Schmidt on the WebEx, so they are available for comment. So I think the next thing to do is to turn it over to the applicants, and then we'll proceed from there.
Yeah, before we, have you submitted this to the township? Do they know anything about it yet?
No, I guess we dropped the ball on that because, I didn't realize I was supposed to go back to the township and, so we didn't bring the shed back to the township yet, so sounds like we're gonna have to, to go back that route if we wanna put a shed there, if the house goes through or whether it does or doesn't go through, so.
So that would be the option. I mean, the option is the board could, you know, either continue it to get that, or the applicant could say, you know, I just want to drop the shed request because we have the approval for the house. And it's kind of between the board and the applicant, how they want it, you all want to proceed. Now, if the board says, no, we're fine proceeding with the shed and either approving or denying, well, that's up to you. It's not my call, it's your call. And so I think that's, once they provide any additional information they want, then, I mean, the board, you could help direct what you want, and then the applicant can then respond with how he wants to proceed. So I guess that's how I see this kind of taking place, rather than me just saying, well, just continue or anything else.
Yes.
But let's see how it goes.
Yeah, so if we could proceed with just the house and drop the shed, for now.
Well, I would say just wait, you know, you guys give your information, let the board proceed. They'll let you know if they want to continue it to get information and get the township response on the shed. Well, then you could then drop that portion of the crest if you like, but they haven't given you that yet. You don't know that. So instead of just dropping it now, give your information, then let the board, you know, do what they
Understood.
want to do with it. So go ahead, Paul and Joel.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, I can comment, most of you were out there, saw the site, I mean, it looks pretty small on my piece of paper and you start pulling setbacks, but when you get out there, it's actually a pretty big spot, it's a pretty nice spot, we're not really impacting the big woods part of it or that kind of thing, I mean, I think we've done about the best we could on this parcel, and again, it's still a 10-acre parcel, so, so I think, you know, the house site, hopefully you all saw that, or at least, you know, can envision how that can work. The shed, yeah, we kind of, between Joey and I didn't direct him very well to say, well, we gotta get back to the township. I kind of, these days, things are a little bit more difficult, so I kind of missed the ball in directing him in that. We are asking for that same setback. I think we kind of talked about it when we were out there, about kind of where that shed would go, because we had that in mind. We didn't have all the plans, and to the township's defense, we didn't present that at all. The township didn't have any issues with the house, but they didn't see the shed at all or where it was going, or so they have no idea. And I mean, that's why they said no. We didn't talk about it, so how could they even decide on it? So, any other questions? Otherwise, I'll keep it short.
Okay, Paul?
Oh, we want the public?
Yes, let's go to the public.
I didn't see him, so.
Janice, do you have any comment at this point?
I guess, you know, something that we have not talked about is that road access area. If you see on that drawing how that comes to a very specific point as it enters into County Road 34, I think that needs to be looked at. And is there going to be enough room on his property to make the proper setbacks for the road?
I do not believe the road setback will be any issue to that shed. We're looking at, that placement's gonna be 250 feet from the center of the road, which it's a 130-foot setback. So the shed itself, there's no setback issues with that.
I'm more concerned about the way the road will come onto the access, the actual access into the property.
Okay?
Right off of 34.
As far as the distance from their access to which?
Barry, if I could, this is Greg, the Assistant County Attorney. I think the issue mainly, if I hear you correctly, Janice, is that you're worried about where they're coming off of Highway 34, and that most likely is going to be dictated by the Highway Department with an access permit for them. So that's most likely a highway issue as to where they're placing it, I'm guessing.
Okay.
That's kind of what I thought was the question, but I wasn't sure. I didn't do as good a job of getting to the meat of it. Kevin and Katie Schmidt.
And there,
Oh, go ahead, Greg.
oh, I was just wondering, Janice, do you have a, it's not in the survey, do you have a driveway there? Or is there a shared driveway there? It looks like they're trying to create a shared access point with the highway department. I just can't tell from what I'm seeing there.
There is a driveway there, but it's probably, I mean, it's very narrow.
Yeah, and I don't have the detail. I got it here.
Yeah, and you got a curve there, so the highway department's trying to get their sight lines correct. But a lot of safety issues go into that placement.
Right, and just, you know, even before this was just an access into that property for, you know, farming purposes or whatever, there has been a lot of accidents on that curve. So that's a big concern there, how it's gonna actually come into 34.
Okay, so on the screen, I have up the driveway detail for how the driveway will access off of the county road onto the property. Now, there again, that's any type of distance from access points, that's a highway department issue as indicated by council. I have no control over that. But I thought I'd at least put up the details so we could, you know, that little bit in more closer view of, you know, just it's a tight area, so. Okay, Kevin and Katie Schmidt, do you have any comment?
I don't think Janice's concern was the actual access point. It's that 14 feet where it curves and goes in is the issue. At the point. The access coming right off of County Road 34 is not the issue. That's fine because that is actual a driveway. But from there, it turns and there's only that where the property line is there is only 14 feet. That is the issue.
I'll put that back up. So I understand everyone can't see this, but I'm going to make reference to the board. I think what that's referencing is this distance. That's 14 feet, that the narrowest where it turns.
When you guys were all out there, it was staked. You saw both of those lines staked. So, I mean, it's tight, but it's an existing condition, so I don't know what we can really do about it.
And, at the township meeting, the original one, Don Schmidt said, because he's the one that my dad bought this property from, and he said that the access was much bigger before they widened the road, so, you know, it kind of is what it is, and that was the access, and that Kevin wanted to change it a long time ago, but his grandfather said, no, we gotta have access to the back of the property, and that's why it stayed where it was, and been that way ever since, I guess, so.
Have anybody else there, Mary?
Those are the two.
I don't think that there was ever meant to have a building back there. It was for cattle and recreation and, you know, my question too is how high, Paul, you can probably answer this. How high is the water now in comparison to the ordinary high water mark? I know where Schmidt Lake is at, and in Wright County, I don't think water is going down anywhere. How many feet of the land is underwater?
Well, when we did the survey, the ordinary high water level was actually above the water, but we did the survey in 2018. So,
I don't believe there's an established OHW there, is there?
there is, yeah, there's actual elevation on there. 76.1. 976.1 is the ordinary high water level. So we, you know, and that's a little bit of a marshy, not all of that, I shouldn't say. Some of that shoreline is a little bit marshy, so but it's definitely flat as you head out there. So any change in water level will make a big difference in the acreage. If you look at the acreage on the survey, we show at that time, we had 12 acres to the shoreline and we had 10 acres to the ordinary high water level. So we had 2 acres between the ordinary high water level and the water level at that time. Where it is today, I don't know. From being out there, I don't think it's high. I think it's probably close to that OHW, or I don't know, I'm guessing.
That's a concern, obviously, when it comes to the sewer.
Yeah, the septic system is up at about a 90, so we're 14 feet above the OHW. I should clarify that. That's the alternate site. The primary site is at 84, so that's about 8 feet above the OHW.
That's 8 feet above the high water?
Yeah, so.
Any more, Barry,
Uh,
from the people there?
are there any other comments? Janice or Kevin, Katie? Okay, turn it back over to the board.
Back up here, okay. Paul, you're up, I believe.
Having been on the site, it was a big game changer for me to see everything. It alleviated a lot of my concerns. It's high enough. A couple things that I look at is when you're this close, what kind of impact it has on the lake, and you're on the back side of that kind of hill. You have that natural wooded area that you kind of limited what you can do with. So that would limit the impact visually, I think was one of my concerns, a house that size, so that's good. And as far as being close to like that water drains, to what I think is an ideal situation, you have that natural buffer wetland to take any stormwater runoff. So my concerns about, water quality being affected from runoff, whatever, is obviously naturally taken care of with the landscape. As far as the shed is concerned, I'd like to, out of respect for the township, refrain from that. It's not that I don't have an opinion, but we value what the township says on that. So if you're gonna remove that from the equation, I could go along with the variance request as presented for the house. Thank you.
Okay, Charlotte?
To me, cutting the setback to the ordinary high water mark in half seems excessive. Just because it was done in 1999, we're not bound by that. It expired in 2002, and the current property owner bought the property a year after that, so I'm sure he was well aware of it. What I'd rather look at doing, I understand that a variance will be needed, but Wright County is more restrictive than the Minnesota statute on this setback. The Minnesota statute is 150-foot setback to a natural environment lake, and I'd rather see the structures meeting the statutory setback if it can't meet the county ordinance. In addition, the basement appears to be too low. It has to be 4 feet above the highest known water mark, and according to the DNR, it needs to be another foot higher.
Any comments, though?
I don't know what the highest known is, but the basement floor is
The
at 8.
highest known on Lake Finder is 978.27.
Okay,
982.7 by county rule,
yeah, so
foot less by DNR rule.
that's basement floor, not outside grade, yeah. Yeah, so then that's, that could be done. You just have to raise it up a foot.
Okay. Anything else, Charlotte?
In any case, the current setback on one side of the house is 153.8, and on the other side is 113 something. So I think that the house, which is very, very large, with a 3-car garage, could be downsized. To meet a 150-foot setback on all sides. The garage could be downsized, and especially since the shed is a 3-car garage shed. I don't think that there needs to be an attached 3-car garage, and that could solve it right there. That's it.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying, but if, on the same token of the elevations, what we're trying to do is if we meet 150 on the west side of the property, we're gonna get pushed off the top of that hill, and then we're gonna have to put more fill in. So we're trying to get onto the top of that hill. That's why we're pushing it so far to the west, because that's the highest point, so. That's the reason why
Well,
it's
then the
there.
house could be downsized so that, it doesn't have to be designed to be a walkout.
I understand. I'm just telling you why it's where it is.
I understand that, but I'd rather see it meet a building envelope that meets some sort of statute or ordinance.
Understood.
Okay, Dan?
That's it.
I agree with a lot of what Charlotte is saying. The one other thing I think that we really get brought up is that road access, where you come in there. You start building a house, how are you going to stay off of, how are you gonna get a semi load of drywall in there? How are you gonna get a semi truck in there? You're going to be impeding on the neighbor's land, one way or another. It's wide enough to maybe sneak a camper in there, that type of thing. Nobody's gonna say nothing. But you go under construction for 6 months, all summer, landscaping, all of those things, and there's no way you can stay on your own land. With the way, that was the one thing when I was out there, I did pay attention to that. I was looking at those stakes and even driving in and out of there with pickups.
Yeah.
We technically were, there's access there. If you can get there, absolutely. It is not landlocked. You can probably get a camper back in there, do whatever you want to do back there. But you go under home construction, and it's going to be very difficult to access, with that type of equipment. If you can drop everything in by helicopter, which I doubt there's an option, can be done, but you know what that's one of my main concerns. And then with Charlotte, everything we're doing here is taking a variance. And that's not normally what
We do.
We usually make them meet it on one side or the other, or, work with us so that everything isn't variance, to put it there. I'm not saying, it's a beautiful building site, but again, it's an environmental lake, 200-foot setbacks. I'm having problems with it, is where I'm coming from.
The best option for delivering most of your materials to the site is probably across the lake. Because, and there again, there's different things to look at. For one, it's not up to the board on whether those types of things are physically possible. Is it? I don't know. I don't think it is. I think you put a load of trusses on a trailer, there's no way that truck is gonna be able to turn within those markers. It's just not physically possible. But that's not up to us. There's a number of different ways that, that can be accomplished to make it so that it's fine, but that's not our decision. We can't force neighbors to say, yeah, it's okay, here's a temporary easement or whatever to kind of miss that one marker that's there,
But even that being said, that goes along with, in my mind, that goes along with giving a variance. If you're gonna give a variance, you're saying they can drive on land, not across the lake or however. It has access. In my mind, if you're giving somebody a variance, that's, and then everything we're looking at here, sewer, opposing setbacks, the whole works. It's a solid variance, and I'm challenged by that.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And kind County grant a temporary access variance to allow trucks to come in?
Well, in this case, it's not, the right-of-way ends at that westernmost point on that survey.
What they could do is they could allow them to construct a temporary that would come in angled with the property line, fill in the ditch for a temporary season so that those semi-trucks could come in more parallel with the property line versus coming in and turning, because yes, they won't make that turn, but, because that is all right away from the west side of that access all the way over is all right away. So that's probably what would have to happen is you'd go to the county and get a temporary construction permit, access permit, so. Whether they would allow that or not, I don't know, but that would be my suggestion.
Okay, including that, I mean, yeah. There are so many questions here now, including the township. Plus, everything's a variance. You'd have to go to the county first to see if they'd even consider it. You know,
The access,
right.
the temporary access permit?
Well,
Here's the thing, if they don't, then it doesn't.
right, that is,
Right.
to me, that's not this, I mean, there's nothing to say that they build homes on lakes up north all the time. There's nothing to say they couldn't do it in the winter. They couldn't stockpile all the
Right.
stuff in there in the winter. So that, to me, isn't here nor there for this board, the setbacks and everything else, yes. But that would be my argument, is that's for my client to figure out how he's gonna actually do it.
Your client, the builder, or whatever else, and if none of those options work, then it's up to them whether or not they want to deal with the legal ramifications of having semis drive over that pin.
That,
There again, I'm not advocating for any of that, but that's, in all honesty, that's kind of out of our realm. That's not within our jurisdiction, it's not within our codes.
it's not ideal, but
Right.
Okay.
You can get a boom truck too in there, smaller one, unload them.
unload and pull.
From the highway, just
Okay.
plop it over onto the something smaller.
I
there's a
tend
number
to
of ways.
go with exactly what Paul, I would replicate almost everything he said. I was pretty good with it when I got out on the site. I think I'm okay with this, but I would not do the shed until the township approved of it or disapproved of it. That would be a big for me, either way what they took it, so. But the house itself, I'm okay with it. The way it's planned.
So it's obviously, if you're gonna do the shed, you're gonna have to come back anyway. Do you wanna just get the house approved, or do you wanna come back with the whole project?
Yeah, I'd like to move forward with the house if I could, because for some reason I sent it to Barry and I didn't realize that I was going back there, and I'll just, bring that back at a later date. If we could move forward with the house, that would be great.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for variance, section 155.026, 155.048, 155.057, 155.090C, Table 3, and 155.095, Chapter 155, Title 15, Land Usage Zoning of the Wright County Code of Ordinance to allow construction of a 3,426 square foot, one-level dwelling with the basement walkout from the ordinary high water of a natural lake, with the lowest elevation to be 1 foot higher than the known water level. That sound about?
Meet the elevation requirement.
Meet the elevation requirement, 100 feet from the ordinary. A variance is also requested for the,
Actually, what you can say is the request for the shed is dismissed at the applicant's request.
and the request for the shed for the applicant has been dismissed by the applicant.
Motion.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, and for discussion, as with a lot of these, from a staff perspective, somebody comes in and apply for a permit, if this isn't exactly what's getting built, then I have difficulties if they increase the height or, make arrangements or adjustments to the structure itself. So I prefer it that it get approved according to the plans. That way I have a base to start with. And so if it gets taller, well, you go back to the board. If it lengthens, it goes back to the board because the board is basing this off of what this structure looks like. And so at a setback that's virtually at the shore impact zone, I get really uncomfortable really fast when changes are made. And, you know, I can't say this is gonna be the exact house that somebody comes in and applies for. And so I prefer to have at least that as a base, because if we don't do that, then it's just, well, it's just the setbacks. Now I have to evaluate without a base to start from whether this is something the board may or may not have approved. At least if I have Exhibit A, Exhibit B, well, here's why I can't approve this. It got 5 feet taller and it's 100 feet
You
from the
feel
lake.
more comfortable unless smaller or shorter?
Well, you could just say Exhibit A
Yeah.
and Exhibit B, Exhibit A, building plans, Exhibit B, the survey, and then if anything that's less, we just administratively approve, because they are approved to do more. So anything less, I'm good with. I have no issues if they do less, but it gets into evaluation if they do more.
So the building is to fall under the requirements of condition A and under the survey that's being presented as Exhibit B?
Yes.
Okay, I note that.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Because it gets difficult for me, you know, if you have it on the market, if somebody doesn't want to build this exact house, now I have to start evaluating stuff, it gets really hard. And I don't know, it's the board's decision if you don't, you know, 5 feet in height at a 100-foot setback, I can't say you wouldn't have a problem with that, so it's.
No, I'm basing on what I'm seeing here,
Yep.
absolutely, for
Yep.
sure.
Okay.
And I want to stick.
Or less.
Or less, yeah.
We did this, I think at the last meeting, we had something similar where we said it's got to be this or less.
And the other thing is just for discussion's sake, you know, you build a house in there and we talk about it out there, you can't do any, it's an environmental lake, you can't do any clear cutting. We've been seeing that happen, all of a sudden the house is there, a chainsaw flattens everything. And we can't glue it back together, you know.
I just had a guy that had to replace 50 trees.
Yeah, but they're not 100-year-old trees. I mean, those are mature trees out there, and once they're gone, they're gone.
No, not that
You know,
one.
I mean, that's,
Henshaw.
Yeah.
one of my, because the positioning of this house, the where it's at, not gonna get much of a view of the lake. You're just building a house on a hill, because the lake is going to be, other than the front bay, you know, down in, otherwise you're not gonna see anything the other direction. So, I mean, I just wanted,
Yeah.
I mean, I understand what emotion is, and that's something I want to point out. I mean, we talked about it out there, this is an environmental lake. You can clean up brush, but,
And we talked
and I want that
about,
in the minutes, that is,
Yeah. And we did talk to the landowner, you know, about it, so.
Yeah.
And he's.
And you know,
On record,
it is good to get it on the record. It's already in the ordinance. It says you cannot clear cut in the shore impact zone. But it's not one of those ordinances that run and slam people in the face if they ever do decide to look.
and there were some dead trees.
And so we get a lot of people that just burp.
There were
Get the
some dead
chainsaw
trees
running.
that we said were okay.
Dead and diseased are all allowed by ordinance. And anything less than 4 inches in diameter breast height.
Okay, yeah.
So you can shrub it, you can brush it, you just can't remove any living trees that are more than 4 inches. So I think we're good. Roll call vote.
Okay,
You approved the amended? You
Yes,
seconded the
I
amended?
approved, I
Okay.
seconded his
Okay.
amendment. Dan Vick, aye.
Paul,
Mr.
I.
Chairman?
Yes,
Mr.
Charlotte?
Chair-
yes,
Mr. Chairman?
yes, Charlotte.
Oh, this is,
Oh,
Not me.
no. Okay, it's a neighbor.
oh, go ahead, ma'am.
State your name every time because we don't know who's who.
Stevie Schmidt.
Okay.
The neighbor. So will they be applying for a variance for the access, or what is the status of the access?
The access is something that the highway department has jurisdiction over, we do not. I do.
Go ahead.
I do have one question for council, before we approve. Is this something that you would recommend findings for?
I don't think it's necessary, Barry. I
Okay.
think you got a motion before you, go for it.
Okay,
Okay, Charlotte,
No.
Dan,
Dan Mall, no.
And myself, no.
So the motion fails 3-2.
Right.
So the next step, basically that's, council. I don't want
Yes,
to,
sir.
I want to make sure I get this right. So the motion failed 3-2. What's the next step?
We need a motion. I need to know directions of the board. Do you want a revised plan? Are you looking for denial of the complete application? We need a motion.
I guess, I would like to see a revised plan.
Showing what?
Showing, the 150-foot setback, at least meeting the setbacks of the state that Charlotte brought up.
Yeah.
It's 200, right?
No. Charlotte brought it up, it may have got a little bit lost in the conversation, but DNR shoreline rules for national environment lake state 150-foot setback requirement. Our ordinance is more restrictive at a 200-foot. We established ours at a more restrictive back in, I believe it was the late 80s when the shoreline rules were adopted, and we've never wavered from that. We've kept it at the 200-foot. And so we are more restrictive. Now, what Charlotte is suggesting is meet 150 foot to at least be in line with what the state shoreline rules state, which is 150 feet.
Because, I mean, it is a nice place for building, okay? I'm not saying that as far as access and how they're gonna get there from the road. Not our discussion. That's been made clear here. But still an environmental lake, 100 feet is close to an environmental lake. If the DNR or the state's gonna allow 150, I can go along with that. If they can come up with a plan that can meet those things, whether they gotta lower it off the hill, I guess. That's where I'm at. And if they wanna go for the shed, and come back with the shed and go to the township and go through the hoops and continue it again, I'll make the motion if up to the applicants, continue it for new plans.
Yeah, so we can
Gary,
modify
my
it.
only concern with continuance is 1599 on our time limit. Has that been waived? I know this matter's been out there for a while.
It has not. Looks like we have an expiration of 9/4.
Right, so next board meeting, you have to make a decision or it has to be waived.
Correct.
So, probably should do the Paul Otto for all the outside people. So one question on the board's feelings. I think what we're leaning towards is asking you to table us, come back with a revised plan. But I do have one question with hopefully some direction from you on the shed issue. If we're talking the 150-foot setback from the lake, what are your feelings on a 100-foot setback for the shed? Is that not as high priority as the house? Just looking for some comments, so when we come back,
A little guidance on that?
put this together and get her done.
I'm at 150, let's keep it consistent.
Then the shed will be a moot point with the township.
Yeah, I don't think there isn't gonna be enough area where 150 could be met for everything.
We'll be lucky to fit the house.
Yes, I agree. I think you would be lucky to fit the house in there.
I mean, we may not be able to meet 100% the 150, but we will sure try. We'll have to see what that envelope ends up being. It may not be big enough, but I guess we would ask for you to table so we can review that and see and present something back.
Paul, do you feel that if you try to meet that it could be more detrimental to the lake, or what? If moving it, you were saying before you wanted to stay on the hill, and I understood that, and where I looked, it looked like you had ample room there.
I think there is.
I think it's gonna be a little bit more challenging. You're gonna do more grading on the site, just in order to keep that up, unless you're gonna go with one level.
You're gonna have to fill in from that hill, because the only place that's I can even see is physically possible is just to move the house almost straight east, and then you'll have a hill here and the house will be here, so you'll have to fill.
Why he gets paid the big bucks.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I mean,
No,
just.
I know, but that's.
No, it's all feasible, but that's just the reality of it. It drops going back to, we walked up that hill going in.
You're trading that setback for more land disturbance. I mean, can it be done? Yeah, we could.
Just about anything can be done.
I'll make a motion to continue this till next month's meeting for revised plans, and we'll take a look at it then.
The township does not meet in between now and the next meeting. They meet the second Tuesday of every month. So the only way to do that would be to continue to September, which in which case we will need that waiver signed by the property owner.
I guess, are you willing to do a waiver?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have statutory timeframes on when we have to decide. This will push it beyond what we can just administratively continue it to.
Okay,
So
I'll
you would have to
second
sign that waiver.
I'll second that motion.
For discussion, you're willing to forfeit the shed though, right? Because it sounds like you're not gonna get the 150, that's a good point. So would he have to go back to the township? If he's not gonna do the shed at all?
If you're not gonna do the shed at all, I guess that's up to the board. It's less restrictive than what the township has already approved for the house.
Yeah. If you're gonna drop the shed, then I would,
Come back this next meeting,
yeah.
waiver.
We're fine with that. What I will tell the board is, with the ones I have in the office right now, I'm expecting 2 more continued items today. That will put us at 9 or 10 items already. So just be aware, I'm calculating 2 that one I know is gonna get continued, another one I'm expecting to get continued throughout the next 7 items. And so just so you're aware, that meeting is getting full. I might have to turn people away today because I'm pretty sure there's gonna be walk-ups that try to apply. So just so the board's aware.
Okay.
Can I ask you guys another question? I was just looking at like the medians. I know it's probably not something I could even ask for, but when you look at the Schmitz shed and you look at my other neighbor, both of them have outbuildings that are probably less than 100 feet from the lake, or if not like at 100. But I don't know in that.
Each case is judged on its own merits separately.
Okay.
Each case is very unique, just as yours was. As you can see, there's a disagreement on the board, and my position was different based on your merits, your situation. And unfortunately, we came into a different agreement. So I would caution you not to be looking at neighbors so and so, because it's really deceptive and not accurate.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Barry?
I don't know what we're doing yet.
We're continuing the applicant to sign the waiver. You got one
It's the August,
I'll second it.
for 7th.
Or you did already, all right.
Yeah.
Aye, Dan, Vic?
Paul, aye.
Charlotte?
Aye.
John, aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
I'll wait for your information.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Time to clean up.
now this is that waiver for the. $17 today. Yeah. Okay. And then you can bury those plans
Okay.
as soon as you can.
Thank you.
And then you think, the next one's here.
Oh, Mr. Oh, Paul
Okay,
left.
he's not
We
here.
could've right before Paul left. The next one's
Next one will be Holland, right?
No, he continued.
On camera and everything.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just jump into that next item now that we're here. The Bulky Properties LLC request, when they met with the township next to get more formal approvals and agreements for the cartway, apparently the township's attorney wasn't there, the applicant's attorney wasn't there, and there was, a lot of the public came and showed up, neighboring property owners, and there was some issues with it, so nothing actually formally got done. And so they just requested continuation so they can go to the township's next meeting with better representation. The township's attorney can be there to advise the township on their legal rights as far as cartways. And so I do have a motion written there, and that's what I would recommend we do.
I'll make that motion to continue the matter to August 7th, 2020 at the applicant's request.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Dan Vick, aye.
Aye.
All aye.
John, aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
Charlotte, aye.
We got you the first time, Charlotte. Is the audio fairly decent for you today?
Say what?
Is the audio fairly decent for you today?
Answered that.
Oh, apparently not.
At least we know it's clean.
Would you give your names to Terry, please?
Dan Holland.
Lynn Holland?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property's a 3-acre parcel in Marysville Township. The request is an after-the-fact variance to allow small livestock on a parcel less than 4 acres and to shelter livestock less than 100 feet from the property line. In this case, there's a pig enclosure that's a dirt lot that's approximately 12 feet from the north property line. And then although the ordinance does allow poultry and those types of things on parcels less than 4 acres, it does require more than 4 acres to have items such as, pigs and those types of things. So that's the variances that they're requesting. We did receive approval from the township. And also letters of support from Jolene and Craig Marquette, John and Karen Rassett, and Perry and Lisa Marquette. And then the neighboring farm property, I received a response from them that I put in your file. It wasn't a approve or deny type of thing. It was just more informational. So rather than reading that one was provided in your folders. And I also emailed that to Member Quiggle, who's remote. That is all I have. So, if you have anything more to add?
I guess the animals that just to give a little background of what we're using the animals for is meat and the manure for our gardens. Our gardens are quite large. They span the whole back and then up in the front, and then we do use it in the pasture in the front corner to help regenerate the soil and get things back to where, kind of what we like to see for our produce.
Storing the soil health.
The sheep, the sheep that we do have, we do use the wool for wool products.
You can see the division. There's 2 pastures there.
Yeah.
And they're rotated.
We like to rotate it so they got fresh pastures at all times.
Okay. Dan? Charlotte, oh, okay. Charlotte,
Me?
you.
Okay. Yeah, this one I have some real problems. Unfortunately, I don't really see any practical difficulty that would allow me to grant the variance. Parcels only 75% of the minimum size needed for livestock, and about half of that is taken up with buildings and trees and whatnot. The applicants have a combined 60-plus years of farming experience, and so I'm sure they're well aware that there are zoning requirements and feedlot requirements, and both the zoning ordinance and the feedlot ordinance say that the minimum lot size for livestock other than chickens is 4 acres. That can't have come as a surprise. So when they brought their animals onto the property, they're in violation of both the zoning and the feedlot ordinance. That's a problem that they created. It's not inherent in the property. I just think that if we go with a 3-acre site like this, we're setting ourselves up for a world of hurt with other people coming in for similar requests. Also, the setback for the third lot, that's a real big problem. That's 90 feet or 88 feet of a variance. And also, based on the correspondence that we got from the neighbor, there's already some problems between the neighbors and the applicants as far as the conflicting land use, the spraying of crops surrounding the 3-acre parcel, and the health of the animals. So based on all of that, I would not be in favor of it.
Okay. Yeah.
And I have some of the same challenges. I've sat up here and I have defended the farmer. I have voted against houses being too close to feedlots. They passed and that's fine. But I've been the lone descendant up here because I want to protect the farmer. But at the same token, I can't let the farmer infringe upon the other way. That's just not the way we're supposed to work.
Yeah.
You can't let one have all the way and the other one say no to all the time. If you were asking to build your house within the 500-foot setbacks, I'd be the lone descendant up here potentially saying absolutely not because I want to protect the farmer. But we start letting livestock and this stuff happen other than chickens or poultry on 3-acre parcels throughout the county. There's a lot of 3-acre parcels in the county that are in agricultural settings. I've looked at the overall topo of this. It's all fields around. I know you're in an agricultural setting, so it's kind of like, what's the big deal? But the big deal is there's a lot of other 3-acre parcels in this county that have, along that 40 right there, there's 4 of them sitting there because it took all their building entitlements and they put them there. And all of a sudden, one in the middle has got everything going on and the other ones just want to have a quiet country living. What are we setting ourselves up for? And, some of the points Charlotte brought up are very relevant too. There is no hardship. It's an after the fact situation. It's really hard for me because I want to protect the farmer 100%. I do. But on the same token, we have to be fair to everybody concerned within the Wright County. I'm challenger. I want to say, yeah, go for it. No big, but I have to look at point Charlotte brought up too with the hardship, and I look at the 3-acre parcel and there's a lot of them in this county that would love to stick a horse on it. It's maybe not a pig and they're maybe not going to be doing good to the land and taking care of gardening. But now all of a sudden you got 2 horses on a 3-acre piece and a manure pile because they're not doing it for their garden and for those reasons. I know each one is unique. I'm looking at that. But then the next one comes in and he makes a unique argument with 2 neighbors on the side that don't want them there. It's challenging for me.
Okay, Dan?
I'm real similar to those two's concerns. I don't know about leasing some more land or buying some more land so that it would work, but even with 4 acres, what is the number of animals that are allowed on that's only like one, ain't it?
Two, one, a half animal unit per acre, so it'd be 2 animal units, which is like 800 chickens, you know? So, I mean, it all depends upon the mix of what goes on it, you know?
So it'd be even hard at 4 acres, you could have one, maybe, several chickens.
At 4 acres, we would be in
We-
compliance.
we would
don't
be in
have large
compliance.
animal.
Okay.
So I mean, we're 0.9 acres shy.
Yeah.
But with their concerns, it's mine too, because there's so many that we haven't.
Sometimes,
allowed to
yeah.
do that.
Sometimes people don't use the manure responsibly, and, no, we
yeah.
get it, we get it, and
I
that's,
get it, we use every last bit.
yeah. And that's
And then
where,
some.
that's where we're trying to get away from the commercial fertilizer aspect and get it back, and we understand that there is some cases where people are not using it responsibly. And like you had just said, we have our own unique case where we are, and the few animals that we do have, we have a hard time producing enough manure for the entire garden space and the pasture space to get it to where, the soil to where we want it.
And it looks like you guys are doing everything right, but it's just, well, I keep referring to if that's done and it's bad, that just because a few bad apples would ruin it for everyone, but that's what'll happen. So I would have to be in with Dan.
Honestly, that's how the vast majority of ordinances are written.
Exactly.
You know, we're amending and changing and adding and removing ordinances all the time because of patterns that get shown. Not saying that's the case here, but just to your point, that's how the vast majority of ordinances are written, is you get tired of dealing with non-compliance, or, I mean, we had that situation where for divisions, it used to be 2.5 acres. That's the only size, that's a maximum you can do. Well, after running through, you know, every meeting, having 3 or 4 requests to do more than 2.5 acres on the board, we just increased it to 10. You know, but we've done it the other way too, where it's a little too loose, see too many problems, well, then we tighten it. It's constantly tweaking to that community standard, so, just as a.
I agree with them, but however, I have a different take on it. I think if we look at this as a unique case all by itself, and I agree wholeheartedly on the whole precedent thing, because we are, but in this case, if we judge it and break it down as far as per case, I look at it this way. Number one, you're in a location that's very suitable. There's no chance of future development. Number two, you're so close. So when I add all these up, I'd be very comfortable. And the other thing is we have a history here of you managing that land. One of the biggest concerns we have is the place turning into a cesspool of manure, clean, and we see a business plan here. So we see something that's very thought out, and we're very close to the limit. As far as addressing the precedent thing, this is unique, because if someone came with 3 acres out in the country similar to yours, they don't have a history, they don't have a business plan, and you're here. We already have this existing and running. So the question for me is, what do we do? And so it's not, in this particular case, I feel comfortable not worried about the precedent, because I believe there are enough unique factors in this particular case for me to say, to go ahead and to approve the variance request. I look at the photos that I saw, I see it currently clean, maintained, and if someone came in the future and had a similar thing, they would have to meet the same bar that I'm seeing here, which I doubt would be even possible. So that's where I stand, so.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I didn't really hear a practical difficulty according to our statutory requirements in that though, Paul. And frankly, it's not hard to have an 8 pages of business plan.
I respect your view, Charlotte. I just shared my thoughts on it, that's all.
Yeah, I understand, but I don't see where the practical difficulty is.
And with the
Anyhow, what's that?
with the practical difficulty, there probably isn't one. But do we want it doesn't meet our ordinance. You know, it's .9 and we do lot line adjustments and all those types of things. If they came in here with a 1 acre lot line adjustment, they'd meet the requirement. I can't say we would or would not approve it, but.
You wouldn't have to.
What's that?
We could do it administratively. You wouldn't have
You
to.
know, and then it's a mute situation here.
So
to a point.
To a point. The setback is still something that,
Yeah.
you know, adding land to get the 100 feet, that takes a little bit different evaluation. I can't say it would or wouldn't. In this case, you'd have to add 90 feet, so then we have to look at then, well, that's all tillable, what's the soils? I'm not gonna say it would or wouldn't completely alleviate that.
If they leased it, would it? If they leased
No.
100 feet, no, that would not count.
That would not come.
You know,
It's a property line, not a lease line.
Okay.
And it, you know, kind of sounds like the adjoining farmer isn't really willing.
He's not, we've approached him.
They sprayed when they sprayed their field last year, there was quite a bit of heavy drift that got onto all of
Killed all vegetation.
killed pretty much all of our garden last year, and through the Department of Ag, they put a prohibition on the sale of our produce.
That's kind of why I went that way too, and not, because you're at 12 foot there, so now you're impeding on some of their rights to spray, I mean.
Yep.
In general, so that's kind of why I was like,
I agree with you 100%. That's, with talking with them and working with them, we both come up with a solution that we're both gonna leave a
25 feet.
25-foot buffer on both sides. So we are working together.
but you only have, 12 for the dirt lot.
Yeah.
But if you bought 100 feet from them, then everything's,
We did try talking to them last fall to alleviate some of the issues about maybe purchasing some more to the north, and they weren't.
They're grain farmers. They want every acre they can get.
Yeah, there are grain farmers. Acre of land is anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 an acre. Right now, net profits per acre are negative, so that's 40 years in net profits and you don't have your land anymore.
I'd like to point out though that we are produce farmers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different.
No, correct.
And
Absolutely.
unfortunately, we all need to learn how to cohabitate, and this is a product that we need to enhance our produce naturally, is manure.
Yeah.
And either that, or we're gonna have to try and buy it in which case, where do you stand?
And I'm not sure exactly which side I'm going on. I mean, but you see our side where we're sitting up here.
Yep.
I do.
I live in the northern portion of the county, and I can drive by places up there, and they probably have the 10 acres or whatever, and I just shake my head. There's a great big manure pile sitting out there. And I come from a feedlot family, and we get blamed for the smells, and, you know, that's where I'm struggling. I mean, I totally agree with what you're doing. What you're doing is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
But we gotta cohabitate in this county and put things together, and I agree with Paul. You have a plan. I mean, it's all laid out. You're doing a good job. You can see that from your property. You can see that from the pictures. But how do we balance this? That's where I'm struggling. I mean, because I'm the one that goes against the people that want to build a house closer to a feedlot. You know that, you guys, you know, all in all out, I say no to that.
There's very few times I bring this up to my wife, and this is one I brought up, and I'm like, I want to say yes, but
Yeah.
something in the back of my mind says no. I'll say no, because when I was on the city council in Delano, they wanted to start raising chickens in city limits, and I was like, I was okay with it, then I started realizing that we can't even control the dog population, so somebody has bad chickens and smell and brings in skunks, and all of a sudden, nothing the neighbors could do. It was just, so I had to vote no on it. And I would say the same
So what does the board want to do?
Well, I'll make a motion just to bring it forth so we can vote on it. And I'm going to make the motion to approve the variance request, 152.025A and 152.027A, Chapter 152, Title 15, Land Usage and Zoning of the Wright County Court of Ordinance to allow small livestock on a parcel less than 4 acres into shelter less than 100 feet from the property line.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any additional?
Just one bit of a discussion, just based on this motion, and that would be according to the site as it exists with the 12-foot setback, because
you.
it's just less than, that's all it says.
And with that discussion, I want to put in there that, along with what Barry just said, it's a uniqueness that there are no neighboring properties, there's no other housing development in close proximity. I mean,
In the likely future, yeah.
It's in agricultural area. I want to make sure that that's clear, that this is unique. Hardship, I can probably say no, but it is unique.
So where are you across the county with other people?
That's where I want it in the record, that there are no close proximity neighbors, that this is sitting with large farm fields around it at this point.
If this were ever to change and there were a residential area put in there, then would you,
It won't.
it never will.
It's zoned, I mean, look at the
Yeah.
land use plan, I mean, it's
Yeah,
so
in-
far down the line
It's
that.
in agriculture.
It's in agricultural land, in the long-range plan as well.
And make a point to that this land is agriculturally zoned. It's not in that land use plan to change.
I'll note that and add to the motion.
The other thing that was a little open, it just says to allow small livestock. Is there a number or no?
Not to exceed current, can you go on record and tell us what you have right now for sheep?
For sheep, we have 4 resident ewes, one who's getting moved out, 2 alpacas for purpose of protecting the flock,
Okay,
and then we have
6 feeder pigs.
6 feeder pigs
okay,
that will be, they're there for 6 months. We
Okay.
eat them.
all right, so if we won't exceed that, I'm gonna put a cap on that, it's on the record, so you can't go beyond that, so if we could note that on the record.
It was listed in our, there was
Oh, it's
chickens.
listed in there?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Hens as
there's
well.
some
We have
laying
laying
hens
hens.
and.
So you're not at more than 2 right now?
We're not at more than 2 animal units, no.
Right.
No.
So just, that's the limitation.
It's-
Actually,
Two farms, so if you have 2
actually, it's
acres,
it's 1.5 on a 3 acre. That's the limit, is 1.5 animal units.
Our total animal units do not add up to 2 as of current, so 2 animal units would be all we'd ever,
Yeah, and we're not looking to expand, we
no,
just
we're
want to
not looking to
maintain.
expand. They have to be able to pasture, so.
It's 1.5 or 3.
Yeah, it's a half an animal
Did I
unit per
hear
acre.
You say 4 sheep?
4 ewes, yep.
4, right?
For ewes.
Yep, sheep.
Sheep.
Okay.
Dan and Paul, he says it's 1.5, or a half per acre, and 3, it's 1.5 animals.
That's
I
the
think maybe
limitation.
You got 2 point some acres, or
3.08.
3.08.
108? Are you gonna go with more than that too then? Farmland?
Exceed 2.
I'd say 2. 2 animal units, yeah. Not to exceed 2. All right, motion,
Is there a second?
Yeah, I second.
Second, okay. All in favor?
Roll call?
Roll
Yeah,
call.
Vic?
I could go with 1.5, and then you're staying within that half acre.
The motion's 2 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Two.
I'm just,
Fill it, we'll work it over again.
Yeah, just vote. That's,
at 2, I'm gonna say no.
Paul, yes.
Charlotte?
No,
Dan Mall, yes.
Thanks, guys. Well, I agree with everything you have and the way we got it tightened down is there, you know,
If you,
you're on the spot, John.
I know,
You get paid the big bucks.
yeah, right. Well, with what I see and what you're doing, and hopefully the fact that we can't get anything else in there, I guess I'll vote yes.
A motion passes, 3-2.
Carries.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
So,
Yeah. I would have did the 1.5.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
So is there
Not
any?
easy to sit up here.
I know.
We completely
I get
understand.
it. You just made two little boys' day.
Yeah, our boys are
Oh, God.
gonna be pumped. Is there anything else we need to do?
no, just check with Tracy. I don't believe so. If there's any
Okay.
additional requirements, they would all come from her.
Awesome.
There's no permits or anything with this other than whatever Tracy would require for the feedlots.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, you guys have a good day.
You too.
Tracy, we're getting everything today.
Really.
Great stuff.
Are we still on?
Harrington. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the next item up is, I gotta flip my page. Melanie and Nate Harrington. It's a 17,109 square foot lot on Maple Lake. All right, so here we go. And so the request is a 14 by 20 and a half and 6 by 9 mudroom addition and a new 20 and a half by 38 second story addition on an existing one-level dwelling. It's within the bluff, 10.7 feet from the side property line. Existing impervious surface coverage is 25.4% and will be reduced to 24.9 through the removal of existing hard cover. This property's been through a couple of different variances. One to, as you can see in this aerial, there is a covered walkway from the house to the garage. That's actually been removed, but that required a variance at the time that it was constructed, and the garage itself required a variance in 1990. And so the covering was 04, the original garage was 1990. The applicant has not met with the township yet, but as is fairly standard with these, you know, I much prefer to have the board at least give a cursory look at it so that if there's things that are an absolute no, the board can kind of, you know, evaluate that. And if it gives the applicant the opportunity to revise in that month, we have to wait until the next hearing rather than just throwing a month away. You know, it just, I feel it's nice. I understand you don't want to get too forward with your thoughts on it because the township hasn't, you don't want to step on the township's toes with anything. But at the same time, for due process for the applicant, it's nice to have them have that month to revise if there's something the board really doesn't like. I will get into a little bit, no other comments were received. And we do have Nate who is on the WebEx, so the other applicant is viewing remotely. To kind of explain a little bit how the bluff kind of goes through, I got the survey from the surveyor and we kind of went through and kind of did a bluff evaluation on it, and then once him and I agreed on what we felt it was, he placed it on here. So this is the bluff line right here, so it kind of does run through the corner of the house. That's strictly based on, you know, where elevation lines are and as they move around the house. And so if the house wasn't there, I mean, it would likely be even a little bit farther back, but just based on that cursory evaluation, you know, the bluff rules say, you know, anything that has a slope of less than 18% over 50 feet isn't part of the bluff, and that's kind of where we run into that here, where as the lines start lengthening in out, we have to measure 50-foot segments, and we kind of get to where, okay, this is where the top of the bluff is based on anything farther than this, that 50 feet isn't going to meet the 18%. And so that's how that line in this case was determined. The reason I bring this up is we've had, between myself and a couple of surveyors and some other people that deal with a lot of variances, there's been a lot of discussion on those rough rules and how they're measured. And so we actually have been talking a lot on trying to make it easier for them and us to kind of determine where these things are, because they're not cookie cutter, they can be extremely difficult. Anyways, we do have, the applicants have submitted plans, and so the second story addition was on the right side of this elevation drawing, this is facing lakeward. There is a deck that'll come off that is no closer than anything that's below it, so that is part of the request would be an upper level deck where there's, I believe, a lower level deck there now. And then the other elevation views, the mudroom is coming off towards the roadside, and then the addition, it is partial on the lower and then a full on the two-story, because the second story, what's existing there now is a complete one-story home. Along with the floor plans for all the levels that will be adjusted and the additions that will be placed on. And then we do have some pictures here. I didn't include any separate pictures. These are pictures that were taken from either realtor or the assessor. And so this information was included in the preliminary staff report, and so the board should have had access to all those. The pictures and the explanation, these are slides actually prepared by the applicant and submitted with their original material. So and it does also go through their plans for removal of or basically the landscaping, the change to the landscaping that will affect the impervious numbers. So that is what I have.
Okay, did you give your name to Terry?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
Melanie
okay.
Harrington.
All right, where are we at here? You, I think.
Well, the applicant first.
Oh, go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, so thank you, Barry. As he mentioned, we just purchased the home in May, and we are working with the existing structure. So our proposal is to add 2 bedrooms, a bath, an office, additional living space, and a mudroom for our family of 4. And we are cognizant of the current landscape, so everything that we are proposing to build is away from the lake shore. And actually, the side yard is going to increase that distance from the boundary line to the house as the drawing goes there.
Okay. Paul?
Just to kind of, since it has been reviewed by the township, I'll just kind of give you some of my initial thoughts, and it's not a yes or a no, but I'm very comfortable with the location. I'm very comfortable with the square footage of the footprint. However, I have some concerns on the height and the impact that will have from the shoreline. It's a real serious concern of mine.
Okay.
So that's something to think about. If you can demonstrate that, no, all the other houses in the area have this height and this and that, I'd be willing to listen. But I just be honest with you right now, that's a big concern for me. So with that said, I'll just.
Okay. Charlotte?
I sort of have a similar concern as Paul, but not quite as much because the house is fairly far back. I'm concerned that I'd like there to be a stormwater management plan that could be worked on in the upcoming months. And assuming that everything goes through, I'd like the applicants to submit an as-built survey after the impervious coverage has been altered so that we know that it meets code since they're right at the 24.9 limit. I think that's important.
Okay.
Boy, Charlotte, you and I are right on the same page today. Those are my concerns too, the stormwater with the 24, 0.9 or whatever coverage. I mean, we're on a bluff. I don't want erosion or anything like that during construction. And I mean, and along with Paul, some of the heights and those things. But I mean, that's where I have questions.
So with this stormwater, to clarify, is that during construction or
No,
that's
long-term.
long-term? What is the stormwater management?
Some type of rain garden or some other form of.
Some way of filtration. filtering the works, slowing the water down,
Okay.
something.
Mine are more on the building side. Are you sure the footings and everything are adequate for a second story on there, so you won't be interrupting any of the other area?
We are looking at that piece too, to of course make sure that we are sound to build a second story so that we don't have any structural issues with that.
Okay, 'cause some of the older houses there didn't have a very big footing, and I wouldn't wanna see you digging back into the bluff area to prove it.
Well, and that's one of the questions I ask the applicant too, and anytime I get these where it's, when you look at the existing structure and the size of it, well, how much of that structure is gonna remain? And so in our discussions, where they do the additions, yeah, there's gonna be walls opened, but that main level, at least from what we know now, it's all going to remain in place. The floor, the walls, roofs coming off portions, if not, probably re-roof the entire thing while you're at it. But the base of the structure, from what I've been told so far, is going to remain. Now, there again, we've had issues with this before where you get into the construction. We just had one. Granted a variance, they had to come back because all of a sudden it wasn't an addition anymore. They were tearing everything out and redoing everything. And so, that's something for the board to consider as well once we, get more information at the next hearing, is that, if you're fine with it, if it just ends up being a replacement, then fine, you don't have to, you can address that. If you say, well, if it ends up being a complete replacement, well, then things change, come back. You can always say that as part of any motion to approve at that time.
You're not looking for a motion though?
No, but just as far as you were mentioning,
Yes.
the construction end of it, well, that's something that, like I say, I have talked to the applicant about how much of that's gonna stay.
And also, I'd like Paul's concern, I'd like a broad overview of what the other houses, how far they're set back, so it doesn't impair their vision. I can kind of see it there now.
Yeah, and
We
then-
didn't have it on here. And
Yeah,
that's
no, this is,
Yeah.
those are hard to do with staff reports and prints and that kind of thing,
Which
but,
one's theirs?
actually, theirs is farther down, this one right here, so
Oh,
this
so they're
is.
further back than
so
other neighbors, really.
There is a lot next door. At one time, these were two family members that owned these two lots, but they were always held separate ownership, so the lot next door, I did a lot of review on that a couple of years ago. It likely to build on it will require variances because of bluff setbacks and road setbacks. So that one is, right now is vacant, and I don't know what the intention is with it, but just for the board's edification, it's that is a vacant lot directly next door.
So are some
But
of
you were
them-
wondering about the stories,
Yeah.
how many two-stories? Well, it's a little bit different. Some of these are older, they're built into the bluff, so they're walkouts. Well, they appear two-story, but they're actually one-story. This one is built at the top of the bluff. It's not a walkout, and so it's just a one-story with a basement.
But they're not gonna impair anybody else, any of the neighbors' vision of the lake or anything.
They're farther back
like that.
than almost everybody along this.
Yes, we sit further back than the neighbors.
Question, before I make a motion to continue, when does Maple Lake Township, is that where you're in? When do they meet? Would you have time? to meet?
Correct, so we are on their agenda
they're
for
the
next
5th.
Tuesday,
Okay.
the 21st.
So I'll make a motion to continue this.
Wait a second,
Oh, sorry.
wait.
Yes,
I have one other question for Barry.
yeah,
I don't see anything about septic. Is the existing septic system for the one-bedroom house adequate for the updated three-bedroom house?
just one second. I'm gonna pull up, I did have our environmental health, review the existing septic, and let me pull up his notes. I might have included them, but I don't, I'd like to get this directly off the note, so just give me just one second.
You bet.
I don't have his notes there. I think he emailed them to me. The existing system is undersized for county regulation for a three-bedroom home, but it was approved that way when it was constructed. And so as long as the number of bedrooms don't change, the situation on the lot doesn't change. And so the system is compliant from a state code, or from our general septic compliance standard, so it meets proper separation, those types of things. It is I believe, a type 4 system, monitoring, maintenance, all those types of things, but it is a compliant system as it sits, and it was permitted as a 3-bedroom. Environmental health note, if I'm not mistaken, said, yeah, if they wanted to do a 4th bedroom, they would need to alter the septic.
Okay.
So, and actually, we got into conversations about the office, which had a closet in it at one point, and that's something that they will have to remove from the office.
I'm counting closets.
What's that?
I said I'm counting closets.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you do. Ingress, egress window in a closet, it doesn't matter what they call it on a plan, we call it a bedroom. So it's, you remove the closet or you take out the ingress, egress window, which we prefer you take out the closet, because, you know, it's ingress, egress, even in an office, to me, is important. You want to get out. So, there, yes, that's the questions. John, did you have any comments? I think
No.
we missed you, didn't we?
No.
Oh, okay, I'm just checking out.
I'll make a motion to continue this to August 7th, to continue after we hear the township's concerns.
I'll second it.
Does the board want to visit it since we have that time? Just, we have the time, so we got a month. If the board wanted to see it, now's a good time to schedule that. I'd rather do that than come the next hearing say, oh, I think we should go look at it. Well,
I personally don't feel it's necessary for me. We've done this a lot without looking at properties and setbacks.
I'm fine with it, just thought I'd mention it.
I'm fine. Yeah.
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Okay,
I'm fine with it.
okay.
A vote? Did we get a vote?
Not yet.
Moved, seconded.
Dan, aye.
Paul, aye.
Charlotte?
Charlotte, I.
John, I.
Dan Mall, aye.
Thank
Okay,
you.
there we go. We'll see you on the 7th.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, our next items are 9:30. Can I just suggest a real quick recess? I just need to go get something to drink. I'm getting a little dry mouth here. You're rolling? All right, yes, Mr. Chairman, the next item is Leo Zoller. This actually was before the board in 2013, where they requested a variance of 200 feet for a dwelling on a vacant property, 200 feet from a registered feedlot. In this case, the lot is across State Highway 24 from the feedlot. There are other platted lots in this area. It's the exact same request. It's on the market. He's looking to sell it, but they want to reestablish the variance that was granted in 2013. I really don't have a whole lot more to add. You know, a lot of times with these, as we saw with one earlier property on the market, when you're talking setback variance, a lot of times it's house plans and blah, 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 blah. In this case, at 130 feet from the highway, the setback is what it is. And so, provided there are no other variances that get asked for during the construction process, meaning they're gonna meet the 130 feet, this is where the house is gonna be built. And so we didn't require house plans or those types of things because, you know, it's about the structure and the fact that it's a dwelling. It's not about height or anything else. We did get approval from the township, and again, this is a Corinna Township one. Usually they handle their own variances, but in the agreement that we have with them, feedlot variances are still handled here, as we did with the pheasant farmer, and again, this one in 2013. These are all handled at the county level. So they're recommending approval. I also received letters of support from Robert Schnell, and then we did receive letters disapproving of the variance from Sandra Ransom and Richard and I think it's Catherine Ransom. They're families of the feedlot owner who they actually own the feedlot across the road. So they feel that the feedlot ordinances and the setback rules were established for a reason, and they'd like to see those maintained. So their responses were also in your packet. That's all I have.
Okay, where are we at here?
Charlotte, I think.
Charlotte,
Well, about everything that I have to say, I said in 2013, and I'm sure that you all already read that. This is a platted lot, it's a buildable lot. It was done in 1970 prior to the feedlot rules. There are other houses along 24 there that are also within the setbacks from the feedlot. So should the feedlot want to expand, and I don't really see how it could, but should they want to, it would not be this house alone that would be an inhibiting factor. There are a number of houses that are within that setback. So for all those reasons, I'm fine with approving the variance.
all right.
Yeah. And on this property out there, it was platted a long time ago. The farm was there, and it was platted and taken care of, and all the houses. I mean, it's the lone one to get a house built on it. So, like in 13, I went along with it. I mean, it's grandfathered in. I mean, if it would be new and after the feedlot ordinance, it'd be a different situation, but it's just the last lot to get built on, and it's been there for a long time, and yeah, I have no issues with it. I agree with everything Charlotte said.
Dan?
I too agree with Dan and Charlotte. I think that I read through all the minutes before and agree with everything that you just stated.
Paul?
I agree with everyone, what they said. However, just got one quick comment for maybe more procedural. We probably want to make sure that we let the applicant and the public, if anyone wanted to speak, that way we're official, so.
Sorry, probably my fault. I don't have anyone on the WebEx, so.
But, yeah, I'm fine with it, so.
Yeah, also good with me, so.
Is there anyone from the public, Barry, that's on?
No, no one that's on, so.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the a variance of section 152.027, chapter 152, title 15, land usage and zoning of the Wright County Code of Ordinance to allow construction of a dwelling less than 500 feet from a feedlot.
I'll second that motion.
Been moved and seconded.
Just a little bit of discussion. So since other variances here would be under the realm of the township, what I would suggest the board also include is that that setback is based on the structure meeting the 130-foot setback from the highway. That way, if somebody wanted to apply for that variance for the highway, they need to come back to here too, because they're shortening the distance that the board said was okay. And it probably would be a little bit of a further encroachment over those other structures there. So just to cover ourselves and not have that being something that comes up later, I would just like that, you know, the condition of this is that that's based off of the county highway setback being met.
Can I put that into the motion?
I'll second that.
That's,
Yep.
no, understand why I did that, Steve?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Dan Vick, are we ready?
Yep.
Dan Vick, aye.
Paul, aye.
Charlotte?
Charlotte, aye.
John, I.
Dan Mall, aye.
Great.
All right, there you go, Steve.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is Aaron Weiss. The applicant is on WebEx, and I don't have any other neighbors associated with the request on, or they didn't request to be on. And so what we have is a request for an 8x38 porch. It's an open porch, roadside of the existing dwelling at 118 feet from the center line of the road. Generally speaking, things like covered porches and those types of things, if the existing structure doesn't meet the setback, which in this case, this one's about 126 feet, so it's just a little bit shy of that 130. If they're doing something that doesn't further encroach, we approve porches, minor alterations administratively, as long as it's not further encroachment. In this case, it's a further encroachment, so we have to send it to the board. So just so you're wondering why are we hearing an 8-foot covered porch in the county highway? That's why. We can't, any further encroachment automatically triggers that variance. We're not in a position to just administratively judge it, so that's why. I really don't have a whole lot more to add. I do have aerial and site plan. It's really hard to see the location and where this is in relation to the highway. Makes it difficult to tell where everything is actually going, but it's an 8-foot covered porch extending out, and we do have covered drawings. It'll have a shed-style roof and some supporting posts, but it is an open porch. And that is the area of the house where the porch will be coming off of. So that's pretty much what I got. We did receive approval from the township, and I do believe that was in the preliminary staff report that was mailed out. So that's what I got. Aaron, do you have anything more to add?
I think you pretty much covered it there. It's a real simple design. Like I said, it's going to come off the gable end there on the south side. We feel like it would improve, visually improve, aesthetically improve property. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward there, ladies and gentlemen. That's about it.
Okay. Where are we at? Is it not, Dan?
Yeah, looking at it, it's an open porch. We're not adding rooms, we're not adding anything. I mean, for the distance that it's off, 118 off of the county road, I don't see how it's going to, impede there anyway. So I'm okay with what he's asking, just for covered porch.
just a covered porch, not
Well, that's what he's asking for.
yeah.
Yeah, just what he's asking for, I'm okay with.
Yeah, I don't see it coming out any further. He made note about the flower pots and stuff that are there, and I don't think it'll hurt anybody else. So I'm pretty much okay with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I just like, make sure that it is an open porch, that it does not turn into a 3-season covered porch. That's my only concern, but.
Enclosed.
Enclosed, yeah, period. So, but as plans submitted, I'm fine with it.
Charlotte?
Yeah, the house way predates the ordinance and probably predates the county road. And based on what the applicant said, it also sounds as though the road was moved closer to the house recently, encroaching into setback. So for all those reasons, I'm fine with it.
I'll make a
Gary, if I could throw a monkey wrench in here.
No.
Sorry. I understand the concerns about not wanting a 3-season porch, which I completely agree with, but this is Minnesota, we do have mosquitoes, and I'm just wondering, what if they just put up simple screens? Is planning and zoning gonna come down on that? Because I just don't want coming back for a simple screen. And there's a difference between an insulated 3-season porch window and just a screen that's stapled to a couple 1x1s.
Well, planning and zoning would only come down on them if the board sets that as the restriction. So if the board opens it up to say simple screens are okay, well, then I wouldn't. So it all depends upon what the board rules.
I wouldn't find a problem with that.
Like I said, Gary, there's the monkey wrench.
Yeah.
There you go for your motion, add it in.
Okay. I'll make the motion to request the variance of 155.026 and 155.048 F2, Chapter 155, Title 15, Land Usage and Zoning of Wright County Code Ordinance to allow construction of an 8 by 38 covered porch roadside existing dwelling 118 feet from the center line of the road. A screened porch is permitted.
If I may?
Yeah, please.
The approval is for a covered porch, may not be enclosed, but may be screened only.
Thank you. So noted and added to the motion.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Dan Vick, aye.
Paul, aye.
Charlotte?
Charlotte, aye.
John, aye.
And all aye.
There you go, Aaron, you got your approval, now you just need to apply for those building permits, 2 copies of the plans, and call our main line and set up an appointment when you intend to drop that off.
Okay, great, thank you very much, everyone.
You're welcome, have a good day.
Thank you. You just did that.
You can give your names to Terry as soon as she gets set up there.
I'm Jeremy Jensen.
Bob Carlson?
Thank you.
Okay, what we're dealing with are properties in Monticello Township, the 55-acre Carlson property and the 9.56-acre Jensen property. The request is to add approximately 2 acres from the Carlson property to the Jensen property. It's that little strip noted there. The Jensen property is the 9.5 acres to the north. This item was before the board in 2007. The request was dismissed at the time. The minutes from that were included in the board's preliminary packet. So you've had a chance to read through those. I honestly don't have a whole lot more to add. The township has submitted their approval indicating it does not affect other landowners in the immediate area and conforms with the current land use plan. This area is in the plan for agricultural residential, which is a 10-acre lot minimum. These are still zoned ag, so it is, and still needs that variance. If it was AR, it gets a little bit tricky because of the width. It's not 300 feet wide, so does that meet or not meet the requirements of AR, and it would require subdivision review. So this is the avenue. These properties aren't going to be rezoned at least to AR. If at some point in the future things change and it gets more dense, it would likely be more of a R2A or R2 and divided to, a couple of 5-acre lots or something, the Jensen property anyway. The Carlson property, that's all subject to rezoning and subdivision at some point. So I don't have a whole lot more to add. So now's the time. If you guys have anything more to add, it's over to you.
All right. Well, we, as I stated in our application, was that the northern portion of that, which abuts their property, that used to be ag fields. So that's the flat portion right there by the arrow. And it's usable. I've got some ground photos if you want to see them. And the rest of it going south is very gradient, elevation's very changes, and it's very heavy. And so the usable portion of that strip of land is usable to their property, and not really usable to the remainder of the property. So it just makes sense for them to be able to utilize it and have it attached to their property. And then it creates the rest of the property to be acquired, so to speak. You can use that piece and flatten spot up there. We can't access it anyway.
Okay.
Well, for me, it didn't, township approved it. I don't see any issues other than it makes a narrow strip, but it doesn't, your property and, I would like to see what the rest of the board had to say.
The strip is there either way.
Well,
Curious to what the usage is. I mean, it's just a strip. I mean, what's it, I guess, is it more of an access thing, or,
No. No, as I said, like right by the bottom of the arrow and abutting their property.
Yeah.
That is, that used to be cornfields, hay fields, and et cetera, when we farmed it. And that, if you want to call it a useful piece of property.
Okay.
It was done this way so that variances weren't needed at the time those two lots were broken off.
Okay.
So,
Otherwise
including that in either of those two lots or even much of it, those lots would have been over 10 acres and required variance at the time. So from a zoning standpoint, the divisions when they were made were compliant. If they were trying to include this, they wouldn't have been.
So that's what I was just gonna say. So in other words, the county created this strip of land back there to get those two lots in compliance to split up in 10-acre pieces.
We didn't create it. It's still up to the applicant to propose the division.
Right, they could have, but I'm just saying, to stay within our ordinance, and, not have to go to the boards or ask for variances or planning and zoning. They split up two 10-acre lots, and to make that work, they couldn't go all the way to the back of the property line. They had to create a strip and leave it with the original property.
Correct.
So now there's a strip of land back there that is owned by you.
Correct.
That you want to split off and give to, or sell it to a family member.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Answers my question. Thank you.
yeah. Charlotte?
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay,
I'm good.
yeah, I'm good also.
I'll
Motion?
make a motion to request the variance of section 155.026 E 02 155.048, chapter 155, title 15, land usage and zoning of the Wright County Code of Ordinance to allow approximately 2 acres from the Carlson property 213-100-072300 to be attached to the Jensen's 10-acre parcel lying to the south, number 213.
Sorry, north.
North. Oh, thank you. Corrected, north. parcel number 213-100-072301. Did I get it all?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded.
Subject to survey and revised deed restriction. Because
Subject-
we'll have to do another deed restriction revising the original one when that was broken off. Otherwise, title issues prop up because, well, you're not approved to have this by deed restriction. So we have to do a revised deed restriction. So get the survey done, get that to us, we'll revise it, and it'll get signed.
So noted, added to the,
Yep, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Dan Vick, aye.
Paul, aye.
Charlotte?
Aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
John, aye.
There you go. So get the survey done, get that into us, we'll do the document. Terry, I believe Mr. Jensen is the one that'll have to sign that, right?
Well, I guess I had a question about that, but we can talk about it.
Yeah, it's a procedural thing.
An administrative order.
I'll get the table if
Maybe
you want.
administrative order or something.
Oh, we can, yeah, either one. Or if you just include it in the tax. Well, yeah.
So
We'll talk about that. Yeah, we still need the survey, so
Yeah,
once
we-
you get that.
We just go to the survey and get that organized, and then that goes to you from there.
Yep. So hire a surveyor will come out, survey, get that information to us.
All right.
All right.
Yep. You're the only one sitting out there.
Thank you to the board.
Just give Terry one moment here.
Okay.
Okay, next item up is John Parks. Please give your name to Terry.
John Parks.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this request is one that we don't get very often anymore. It's for a temporary mobile to be placed on the property during home construction. So in this case, there's an existing house on the property, which, has that been torn down or will be?
Yeah, it's gone.
Oh, it is gone already, okay. And so they will be applying for permits to build a new home, and so they're requesting a temporary mobile to be placed on the site. I do have two site plans, one of just, you know, the mobile and where the house is gonna go and the approximate septic. The other one is the actual, from the septic permit itself. They've already actually applied for the septic permit, but they have not applied for the building permit yet. So that is where it's at. These are pretty, simple as far as what I have to do goes. The township has approved with the stipulation that the mobile home be removed within a year from placement. So that's all I have. If you have anything more to add.
I guess that's basically what it is, just trying to place a mobile home on the site while we build. And, removing it as soon as we're done, so. We just had kind of started working on our plans with the guy, but he's so backed up. Basically couldn't get to our drawings till sometime in September, so we're kind of switching to somebody else now. We're just in the early stages of getting them drawn up, so as soon as I get them, I'm gonna apply for my building permit and
Usually in these cases, the board has required that the permit application coincide with the placement. Now, there again, that's just usually. It's up to the board. I mean, if you're comfortable with it, if you set the deadline, whether it's then up to him to make sure he gets the permit, gets his house built, and gets the mobile gone. And then, once that expires, it's either, it has to be gone or he's gotta come back, so. That's all, I leave all that up to the board.
Okay, where
It's
we
your
at?
decision.
Paul?
Yeah, just to, note of clarification, so the septic system, you're gonna tap into the existing one in the old home, or is it a new one for
New
the
one.
mobile home?
New one for the, well, the new one will be designed and is designed for the new house.
Yeah.
But they'll install that, tap into that while the mobile's
So
there.
that'll be installed before they move the mobile home in?
Well, before they occupy the mobile, it's gotta be installed.
Yeah, okay, so that was my concern. And my next question, based on what you just said, is a year and a half enough time?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm.
1 year. Township wanted 1 year.
Township wanted 1 year.
1 year.
But yeah, a year should be enough. I mean, if I can get going in September, I surely hope to be done by April or May.
Okay, I'm fine with the.
That's my plan.
So,
Charlotte?
I'm with Paul, I'm surprised that sort of time would be enough, but, if the applicant says yes, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, and I called, one of the township supervisors and talked to them about it, because it's, it's not something we see real often, and usually mobile homes can be a real challenge to get them to leave. They turn into storage sheds, just different things in the county. It's been a real challenge, I know.
We had one that was temporary for construction that the board heard 3 times for extensions because he never built his house.
Right.
Never even applied for it.
Right. And that's why I talked to one of the township supervisors about it, and he says, they're okay with a year. They've always worked down here, area and planning and zoning when there has been an issue to get it removed, so, I'm okay with it.
I got a couple people already want to buy it, so.
They want the same thing in a year?
Well, they want to move it to some hunting land or something, so they've been asking me about it already.
So I'm okay with it.
Would we be better served for you than a year after date of permit issue?
That's not up to me.
No.
No? But
It's a year from now, because otherwise they don't get their permit for a year. Now it's 2 years.
Yeah.
And, it just drags out. You gotta put a deadline on it for a year.
the only problem I have with that is that, like, the trust plans, everybody's really behind with the COVID stuff. I've been seeing that they've been delaying it a long time.
You builders have to build faster.
They can't get the material. But, I would say I'd give them a little more time than a year. I'd say 1 year and 6 months.
Well, usually what happens is after a year, if it's not gone, well, then they gotta come in and reapply, which takes a month,
And I guess,
It extends it. It's not,
what do you wanna say? Then I would rather have them extended, and then the way you can show us that he's got
Right.
pictures of
Yeah,
the
no.
house being half built. And then it's kinda like, okay, yeah, you can't move in, and you got, but.
How about a year from the septic, completion of the septic?
well, there again, that's,
You can't have the trailer house in there without the septic, right?
well, they can start moving it in before.
I thought you said they couldn't live there until the septic.
Well, there again,
Okay,
they're not supposed to. I've seen a lot of weird stuff in my time here. 20 years of working here, I've seen straight pipes coming out of stuff, so. But it's all possible. I've seen a lot of funky stuff, so it's up to you guys. It's enforcement for us is the same whether it's a year or it's a year and a half, so whatever you guys decide.
Township asked for a year.
Somebody make a motion and
It's
we'll
about
see.
what, probably 3 weeks to get a building permit once I apply?
Yeah, all the 3 weeks right now.
I mean, I'm hoping I
does
can
take
get
a while.
going by early September, so if a guy could have about a year from August to or September, I mean, I'm fine with that, or if you wanna do a year and then say,
Let's just do a year and see how it works out.
I agree.
I could've, like, maybe he was saying, okay, if the house is almost done and I need a month, I'll come in and apply for variance for 1 more month or something.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Motion man?
It's just,
I'm done.
Sure.
did Charlotte fill in?
Charlotte?
Charlotte already said.
She already spoke, yeah.
Motion, man.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance request, 155.026, E5, 155.048, and 155.057, Chapter 155, Title 15, Land Usage and Zoning of the Wright County Code of Ordinance to allow placement of a mobile home on the property while building a permanent residence for 1 year.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Dan Vick, aye?
Paul, aye.
I,
John, aye.
Dan Mull, aye.
There we go.
Building. Happy building.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as we talked, there is a fee to get that moved in, so just get that applied
Called
for right away.
motion, man.
That should be fairly simple. I talked with your wife some too, and it's like, I don't control the building code, so I couldn't help her on that. It's not my call.
Make a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I am Barry.
Oh, you're Barry.
I am Barry.
Okay.
Take care, Dad.
I am Barry. So, like I say, that was me. I talked to the building inspector.